Good evening. This is Cynthia Howard, and welcome to this edition of FreedomCast. Today is Sunday, March 17th, 2019, and we will be talking about body cameras. Do you feel somebody is watching you? Well, if you do, it's your local law enforcement officers who already have body cameras and dash cams, especially in Claremont, New Hampshire, or in Canaan as well. And it's no different across the United States. In the larger areas have had them for quite some time, and in the larger cities they've had them for quite some time. But Claremont just started using them in January, as well as Canaan. The cost of these cameras are very expensive. They're going to have them for 19 officers, and the cost is approximately $1,368 per officer. Now the cameras are only $500 or $600, which is right in step with what you would purchase a body camera for, unless it's on sale. But what is expensive is the actual storage of the information that they record on. So it may be a cloud-based system or something else, and that costs between $800 to $1,000 per camera. They may pay a monthly fee on that, or it may be an annual fee. Nevertheless, together, the cameras and the storage, it's approximately $1,368. Now in LA, when I was doing some research, Axon is the company, Axon, A-X-O-N, that supplies the cameras. And in LA, the cost is almost $1,800. So they have an even more expensive model because it's a larger area. And I'm assuming there's more storage involved as well. But storage of the data almost tells you there may be some other privacy issues there as well. We have a right to our privacy. They are the public servants, the police, the law enforcement, that we can watch them, but they aren't supposed to watch us, not on routine traffic stops by recording us, not by conversing with us and recording us. Now they're supposed to use these for emergency, but they're always on their body, and they can push the button at any time and start recording. But they are supposed to tell you. And if they don't, they are in violation, more than in violation of your privacy. But the whole program is a violation of your privacy because we have a right to watch them and they don't have a right to watch us. Now the reasons for obtaining the cameras were protection. Yeah, protecting them, not protecting us, so that they would have documentation of the incident that they recorded, so that they wouldn't have to be sued or anything else and be brought in the courtroom to explain to a judge. So they have their protection that way. The times that we live in, they are supposed to adjust to the times as police officer. It has nothing to do with electronic equipment. The culture of policing. Policing is respecting the public. Policing is being responsible when you pull the trigger. So that has never changed. Second set of eyes. Well, if they need a second set of eyes, maybe they shouldn't be a police officer and documenting the actual shootings. Well, if they're doing their just duty, they shouldn't have to document anything, because it's a very rare instance where anything of an emergency situation would arise or something that's very tragic. So it's not an everyday occurrence. So they shouldn't really even need to document their shootings. And furthermore, most of them have cell phones, so why would they need an additional set of eyes, such as the body cam? They shouldn't. Not if they have a telephone with a camera on it, with a smartphone or whatever the case may be. They can document by using that, rather than pay an exorbitant amount of money that is funded by the taxpayers and that will be used for the most part against the taxpayers and has all kinds of privacy issues involved. My concern is that officers can use their power, use their control in a non-emergency situation when it's not a necessity to record. Once they have the device, they have the control. Just because they are touting the use of body cams for dangerous situations, it doesn't mean that they can't use them in an otherwise different circumstance. The Fourth Amendment should still be obeyed by those who have sworn to uphold it. And they have sworn to uphold that as well as the entire Constitution. Body camera technology didn't just happen overnight. It has been in the works for years, and I mean years. It starts, as most governmental programs start, as a national incident, such as, in this case, it was the shootings in Missouri, the shootings in Florida that involved black youth with police officers and security guards. But also you remember what happened with the Patriot Act. That came about because of September 11th, 2001 and the terrorist attacks. So we all lost our privacy when we go in an airport and board an airplane because of those terrorist attacks. So it's totally taking your Fourth Amendment rights away, your right of privacy away in all these situations. And again, this was a national tragic circumstance that brought this all about, this body camera technology. Especially when it was Michael Brown in Ferguson, Missouri, and the riots that were in the street and all the blacks that were up in arms. And it certainly could have been whites as well. It had no pinpointing for colored or any other nationality. It just happened to be that case where it involved a black youth. And subsequently the shooting of Trayvon Martin in Sanford, Florida, that resulted in a national call to action by then, back 4 years ago, President Obama, to convene a task force which was known as the Presidential Task Force on 21st Century Policing. And he wrote an executive order for that purpose. Now, the task force convened. They resulted in a manual which resulted in many recommendations for law enforcement, one being the body cameras. And subsequently, a federal grant program was established from the Department of Justice to administer grants, including at the beginning. Now, it was well over that as the years went by, but in the beginning, 2015, it was $23 million for 73 locales in 32 states, and New Hampshire and Vermont weren't two of those states. They weren't eligible because they didn't meet the criteria of large crime areas, I believe. It was the goal of the program to have officers equipped with body cameras by the year 2018. And then we just came aboard on 2019. It had nothing to do with the grant program. In addition, the International Association of Chiefs of Police, known as IACP, agreed with the task force recommendation as it was stated in Pillar 3 of the manual under Technology and Social Media of their handbook, which recommended the body cameras. So even though Claremont and Canaan were not grant recipients or any part of New Hampshire, Vermont, they were part of the goals of the task force via the International Association of Chiefs of Police. So that's how that all came about here in Claremont, New Hampshire, as well as Canaan, New Hampshire, because of the recommendation from the higher-ups, of which all the chiefs of police belong to this international order. After the Ferguson shooting, then the UN General Secretary at the time in 2014, known as Mr. Moon, also recommended that President Obama do something, that we should follow international law, because the UN, of course, is pushing Agenda 21, and now it's called Agenda 2030, which believes in police being equipped with all this technology, with the police being able to handle crowd control all the people in the area, in the localities. and making sure they document everything that they do through this body camera technology. Henceforth, we end up with body camera recommendations from both the Obama administration, the 21st Century Police Commission, and the United Nations. But interesting enough, as we continue to align with international or federal recommendations, we are all drifting further and further away from our local control. So it has an opposite effect. In fact, the United Kingdom, Great Britain, began a body camera program in 2006. This is the mindset of a monarchy, not a republic. The monarchy controls the people. The republic values freedom and lets people live free lives and go about their business freely. So, body camera technology, yeah, could work, I suppose, and it's not right in a monarchy, as England is, or in another third world country, but this country, on a constitution, under our free republic, it should not exist. If the body cameras don't meet expectations, there is always something in the works, including, but not limited to, facial recognition. And it's being developed by Amazon, and it's called Rekognition, Rekognition. According to a report on www.goploy.com, the software allows the user to upload images, the user being the law enforcement community, and then it searches a database of faces to find a match. It uses a cloud-based network, which also knows where the data is going and who can access it. Amazon is trying to recruit police departments now across the country to purchase it. But the police departments are apprehensive mainly because of privacy issues. Just as in the case of the body cam, they should be very apprehensive about using them and what circumstances they use them if they're apprehensive about this recognition software by Amazon. The worst part is that some body cameras will already have this capability, and who knows which ones, what manufacturer, and where they are in the country. But let's not hope that it's not in your local city or town, because the citizens still have, under the Constitution, a right to know what is in those body cameras and what they are capable of doing, and where the data and where the storage is going and who is looking at that information. The whole debate should not be based on the constitutional right to privacy, as we are the government. The government officials should have no right to trample on our rights, including our privacy, and watch our every move. Now you should ask this question: do the times warrant recording our daily interactions with police? According to the Fourth Amendment of the Constitution in 2019, just as it was ratified in 1791, well over 200 years ago, we still, in the 21st century, have a right to be secure in our persons. Not for the government to be secure in their persons, but individuals, you yourselves, have a right to be secure in your persons, regardless of what those who enforce the law believe, or anyone else that sits in the seats of power believe. It is up to us to be secure in our persons, and up to us to live in a free society and value our freedoms and be able to walk and talk and go where we need to go. And as long as we're law-abiding citizens and we mind our business, we should not be tracked, we should not be controlled, we should not be watched by Big Brother, or, in this case, by the law enforcement community. Now, as of last year in Sacramento, California, since the body camera program was out and about and being used by law enforcement, especially in the California area, there was an incident of a young black man, just happened to be another black man, who was shot by police. Now, the police thought he had a gun, but his gun was not a gun. It was a cell phone. And they asked him to stop. He refused to do so. They shot him. Shot him in cold blood. And then when they went over to the scene of their crime, they found out he had a cell phone. But they were justified because they believed he had a gun. Yet when they used their body cameras for their evidence to prove their actions were justified, you couldn't really tell. It was dark. You know, the pictures were distorted. Everyone was in a hurry and they were moving very fast. So it wasn't clear. It wasn't concise. You couldn't really read from that video what really happened. So how good are the body cameras? Only in special circumstances, maybe when it's a nice sunny day, maybe when they're closer by, but not from a distance, not when it's in a dark alley, or not when it's dark out. You can't see a thing. So how is that documenting the police? How is that protecting the police? How is that protecting you? The body cameras are doing nothing more than invading our privacy, and they're probably causing just as much harm as they are good. And in this case, there was a lot of harm because even though the police officers were put on administrative leave, it was not in my opinion, it was not a justified shooting because they made a terrible mistake. Now, if there are police officers in the line of duty, they should be able to tell that that is a phone or it is a gun. Which is it? Or in some cases across the country, there's been instances where people have water pistols, little kids, or they had a knife in their hand, or they had a pellet gun in their hand, and they thought they had an actual rifle or a pistol that was, loaded with bullets, and it wasn't the case at all. So they keep making these kind of large mistakes, and people's lives are ending up being destroyed in the process. And the rest of us are losing our Fourth Amendment rights. And this just can't continue. Somebody's got to put their foot down and say, hey, we've had enough of this. And whether they be black, it could have easily been white people. It could have been another nationality. It doesn't have to be just black, but it just happens in these cases that it is. And police should use more caution. And if they're not sure, maybe they should shoot to wound rather than shoot to kill. Maybe they should fire at the ground, or fire up in the air as a warning, Do you have a gun or don't you? Shoot down. Or maybe they should have backup like a taser gun or have something to put out there, some kind of like a smoke bomb or something, just to warn somebody. But they don't have to kill somebody to actually go gun happy, and that's what in all these instances and cases that they are doing time and time again in different parts of the country. So it's not one instance, it's several instances, and it needs to stop. Now, I was very disappointed that even when Loretta Lynch, under President Obama's recommendation, when she was the Attorney General, started the grant program, and it originally was like $23 million. That was the original amount of the grants that were due to the states in this 21st century policing program of President Obama. But it ended up being well over $163 million when it was all said and done. And in 2016, the Justice Department awarded some more grant money as well. It was announced a total of over $20 million to 106 states. And it was reauthorized by then acting Attorney General Whitaker under President Trump. So I was very disappointed to see that this grant program was reauthorized under the Trump administration. And I know he ended the COPS grant because a lot of that was wasteful because it was put into communities that didn't really need the extra police. But to see that they actually reauthorized the grant program was just not right. It really wasn't. And even though Whitaker isn't there anymore, it was reauthorized under him. So, not that they took into consideration, which they should have, the act of privacy or the constitutional rights, and how beneficial is it, maybe if it's a large riot or a very tragic circumstance, but to just equip police every which way they can with any body camera that they can get their hands on, it's just not the way to go, and it's doing more harm out there than good since its implementation. So that was one thing I was very disappointed about the Trump administration doing. So you should be aware of that when you go out and ask police officers that you do not expect to be recorded, that it's a violation of your Fourth Amendment rights, that whoever is authorizing, whether it be a local city council or town select board, that they should think twice before authorizing body camera, the expenditure of body camera. Not only is it costing you money, but the worst part is it's invasion of your privacy. Well, thank you for listening to this broadcast. You can reach me anytime at 603-543-1372. CindyCool09@yahoo.com. Cindy Tea Time on Twitter, and Cynthia Howard on Facebook and on YouTube, Spreaker.com, SoundCloud.com, as well as many other social media platforms. So if you have any questions, you can give me a shout. Now, I don't have any large sponsors. I'm relying on either donations in my PayPal at ccltgroup.webs.com, or you can purchase a product at Cindy's Collectibles on Facebook, and you might find something that you really like or that can be used as a gift for someone else. We have many products out there, new items coming in all the time. So I hope you take a look at that and give me a shout, and we will continue these broadcasts with many more appealing topics, controversial topics, or informative topics for you and your family. Because remember, only you as an informed citizen can stop tyranny. An invasion of our constitutional rights is an invasion, and as well as tyranny. Thank you for listening.